tonight we'll start off with a brief introduction from some of the Dev Academy crew and from Amy, one of our graduates, who's very, very kindly sharing her time with us tonight. Thank you, Amy. Yeah, we're going to go through just a little bit of the structure of Dev Academy, what to expect on the program, why we differ from other places like universities and so on. We'll talk to you a little bit about why we exist and the sort of the what happens after Dev Academy as well, around job hunting, etc. There'll be lots of time to ask questions. In fact, we really encourage that you just ask questions as we go. As I said before, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can chuck them into chat. So that's either way is totally fine. But we will start off with a bit of an intro. So, and I'll go first. So, kia ora te whānau, ko Rohan Wakefield toku ingoa. I hail from the mighty Rongomai Upper Hutt, where I live with my whānau. Yeah, we've got a farm out here in the Western Hills of Upper Hutt, and yeah, it's a pretty awesome place to grow up. I'm actually one of the founders at Dev Academy. I'm the non-technical person, so I do everything that is relating to, well, I've done everything apart from the actual teaching of the coding side of it, but I'm particularly interested in the employment side, so I've done a lot of work around that. Yeah, and tonight I'm really just interested in answering folks' questions, making sure people know what they're getting themselves into and know how Dev Academy can help them. Cool. I'll pass on to Mr. Quested.
Hello, hello. Yeah, kia ora everyone. My name is Joseph Quested. I am I'm in Canterbury, like Littleton kind of harbour sort of area in Diamond Harbour actually now. I just moved recently. Um and I was a student myself at Dev Academy just about 10 years ago. And then I worked in the industry for a while. I did game development programming primarily. That's kind of like the version of programming that I really love to do. And then I came back to Dev Academy and now I'm a teacher. So there's the course is kind of split into a few different parts. I'm sort of in charge of the first part. And yeah, that is me down looking the cutest in the bottom left-hand corner of that picture there of everybody. And yeah, it's nice to see you all. And maybe let's hear from Fleur.
Hi, everybody. My name's Fleur and I look after the marketing here at Dev Academy. I'm just here for background, really, do things like record and share screen. So most of the talking will be from Ro and Joseph and Amy, our grad, who's kindly agreed to come and share her experience studying and now working. That's cool. And I'll pass on to Amy.
Oh, hello everyone. So I'm Amy. I was at Dev Academy earlier this year, so from March through to July. Yeah, since then I have landed a job. I'm working in the industry now and really keen to share my experience with all of you. Pass back, I think, to Rohan.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Amy. That's lovely. All right, folks, we'll go through. Actually, I thought it might be nice, as we're such a small group and just three of you, maybe with the three of you would like to just sort of say maybe your names and where you're from, any sort of intro you like. And would you like to start with you, Mitty?
Sure. Kia ora everyone. My name's Mitty, short for Miriama. I am based in Ōtautahi and I'm actually not too sure how I discovered you guys. Maybe it was on Instagram. Anyway,
Awesome.
I've kind of reached a point in my sort of like career life where I'm like, what do I want to do next? And this kind of caught my attention. So yeah, keen to be here and looking forward to hearing some more. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Mitty. Leslie, do you want to go?
Oh, sure thing. I'm Leslie. I'm a game developer. Unfortunately, the company I was working for had some layoffs, and I've really struggled getting back into the industry after my initial first job. There's just not a ton of junior to intermediate roles in game development right now. So I was looking at expanding my toolkit a little bit, and this course seemed like a really good way to do that.
Awesome, Leslie. Lovely to have you. Cool. And Betty?
Kia ora, everyone. Yeah, Medi, I am based in Taru in the South Waikato. I manage online and a little bit of marketing for Over the Moon Dairy Company. It's a cheese company down here. So in doing that, I've had to I've had a little bit to do with kind of having to update our website and stuff, and all the Shopify support people and all that sort of thing. I've had to come into coding and all that sort of thing. I've always thought, wouldn't it be helpful if I knew a little bit more about this to stop leaning on other people for support so much? So that's kind of what led me down this path. And then, yeah, like some other people, just after kind of a new challenge. I don't know if you saw in the news recently, Kinleith in Tokoroa, which is nearby to us as well, the big paper mill has just announced they're closing down. So that was kind of a sign to me too, that things are kind of changing in industry, just kind of generally. So I think you should always be kind of looking for what's the next challenge, what's the next way you can kind of move forward with your skill set and that. So yeah, that's pretty much me.
There have definitely been better times to be in the paper industry than right now, for sure.
Yeah, thanks, BD. Lovely to have you here. And you're right, like the world is changing. I'm finding myself taking a deep dive into AI and AI assisted work as it's obviously something that's an unknown and relatively new. Yeah, I think we're constantly going to have to be learning. Every 5 years, they say something substantial will have to be learning to just stay relevant. So yeah, cool. Well, that's grand. Thank you very much for those intros. I'll start off to talk a little bit about why us and yeah, just sort of starting with our vision, a better, kinder, more diverse tech industry. When we started, we actually started back in 2013. Sorry, is that right? Yeah, it is right. 2013, 11 years ago now. And we asked a very simple question to our sector that was really crying out for talent and what makes a good developer a great one. And what came back was pretty much unanimously, we need well-rounded, self-aware people with great, what they were calling soft skills, we actually call them human skills, so that we can build a tech sector that is highly collaborative and highly interactive, but also incredibly diverse. And at the moment, and even back then it was worse, but at the moment it's still not that diverse. It doesn't represent Aotearoa. Okay. So we stand for a better, kinder, and more diverse tech industry. Aroha, Pono, and Tika are the three pillars that hold up our school. They've been there since day one, and anyone that comes through the program gets to define those and what those pillars mean for them. And it really sets a tone for how we roll in the school. It also means that we're not putting something on you. We're just saying, hey, these things are here, and they're here to guide you and for you to sort of be interpreted by them. And what that means, and that's a bit of a flavor of the school, but what that means is that you come through here with a really good invitation, but the invitation is not to conform, it's really to be yourself and to continue on to make of it as you would. But Aroha, Pono, and Tika are our pillars. So Dev Academy is an interesting beast. We're not a university. We've got a our most famous product is our boot camp. So we've got a 17-week boot camp, but we've also got a slightly longer one now at 46 weeks. And the reason we have the two now is because some people have just too much on. They have to work. They can't stop work. They've got kids or whānau that they need to take care of. So we've got two versions. One is the 17-week full on, can't do anything else. You're in and you're out and work ready in a very short period of time. And the other one is a bit longer. But it is a level 6 qualification, so it's at a just at an high sort of level, at an undergrad level, and it's internationally recognized as well. So we have very high completion rates, and last year we were at 97%, which is pretty much unheard of. The reason we do this is because, well, the reason we can achieve such high levels is we have a pretty low teacher to student ratio. So we have a maximum of 10 students per teacher. What that means is that you're getting a huge amount of attention from your teachers throughout the whole week. Now, if you went to most sort of learning environments, you'd probably see a teacher maybe 5 or 6 hours a week, maybe a little more depending on the course of study that you're doing, but you'd also be in a class of many, many people to one teacher. And you don't usually get a lot of teaching time with them. So we changed that. We realized you've got a short amount of time with us. We put a lot of teachers for a small amount of students. And that makes a massive difference in the success rate. Now, the tech skills and the human skills, I've mentioned this a little bit, but employers want you to come out of Dev Academy with both sides of that coin. Of course, they want you to be able to code really well, understand the tech environment, and learn at speed. But just as important, if not more, are your ability to collaborate, your self-awareness, your communication skills, your ability to understand different perspectives, to empathize, to disagree, but to be able to have a great discussion in that disagreement. All these sorts of things are incredibly important. And also this means that if you graduate from Dev Academy and get work, that probably within 3 to 4 years' time, you'll be taking on more and more responsibility because your employer will recognize the skills that you've got. We do see Dev Academy graduates going into leadership positions and positions of higher responsibility more than others. Employers do love Dev Academy graduates in highly competitive graduate programs or job advertisements. Dev Academy graduates come out really well. They're often in the interview mix. So if there's 5 people to be interviewed, you'll often see 2 or 3 Dev Academy grads in that interview process. So we do really well because employers feel like we listen to them, but they also know that there's a really high quality that comes out of Dev Academy. And there's a lovely quote there from Caden. Yeah, throughout the 3 years of my bachelor's, I felt like I remained the same person, but whereas Dev Academy in 3 months, it transformed me. And look, we really value that as well. And we're not just here to teach you how to code. We're really here to give you something that really empowers you to be able to reinvent yourself as a software developer. It's taking all of the skills and attributes that you already have, coupling them with this tech and immersive sort of full-on experience to come out of it going, wow, I'm capable of so much more than I thought I was. And it really is a transformative experience. It's very exciting. Now we get to interview Amy. So, Amy, first, I'm just going to get my notes here because I want to ask some specific questions.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, thank you so much, Amy, again, for sharing your time with us. It's really valuable to have you come along, and for people that might want to be looking at Dev Academy to be able to hear what it's really like from someone that's gone through it. So thank you. What, if we're to start at the start, what informed your decision to study at Dev Academy?
I was introduced to Dev Academy by quite a senior person already working in the industry, happened to be my uncle. Having that recommendation from someone who works with developers every day held quite a lot of weight. And he actually recommended it for his daughter, my cousin, as well. We did the course together in the end. So yeah, that was really the first I'd heard of it, but I was already thinking of changing careers from what I was doing. I wanted to change my life, basically, and yeah, that's what I've done.
Cool.
What really drew me to Dev Academy was the short turnaround. 17 weeks, you can change the whole trajectory of your career. I didn't want to study for 3 years to achieve that. So yeah, it was exactly the right fit for me, with the human skills as well, and learning such an amazing amount in such a short period of time. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. What was your previous career? Do you mind me asking?
So I was working as an operations manager in a call center.
Right.
I'd kind of reached the ceiling of where I could get there, and I was working with databases and with code and scripts in small amounts, and that was what I really enjoyed in that role. So yeah, I wanted to take it further and learn more about it.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, lovely. And what are you working on at the moment? What's your current mahi?
Yeah, so I've been working at an organization called MSupply for around a month now. They are a non-profit organization building open source logistics software for the healthcare system. So everything from the manufacturer through to it being prescribed out to a patient. And it's designed for a lot of the developing countries where they might not have reliable internet access or infrastructure. So with a lot of that in mind while building this application, it's really interesting.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Is it a big team, a small team? It sounds like a relatively small team, is that right?
We've got about 20 developers across New Zealand and Nepal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, fantastic. Is it a New Zealand company or is it international?
It is started in Nepal by a New Zealander. So
Right.
kind of a split there, but yeah. It is New Zealand based mainly.
Yeah, lovely. Okay. Oh, that's cool. And how are you applying the skills that you learned at Dev Academy in your current role?
I mean, just about everything is applicable. Everything from the communication, the workflows. One thing that really stood out was how the daily rhythm, the daily routine really translates over to the workplace. And I feel like I've been able to fit in quite well and quite easily, having already experienced those patterns. A lot of the tech stack that I'm using is also quite similar. So the front end is really similar, the back end is a little bit different. But I have learned how to learn really effectively, which has helped me pick everything up. So yeah, that's been really cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you've actually had to have learnt a totally new language from scratch in this first month.
Yeah.
How's that gone?
It's really fun. I'm getting stuck into it. I think I started code on my third day at the job. Started on the new language within a week. So yeah, just really digging deep and digging straight into it.
Awesome. Oh, well done. That sounds great. And what was your greatest or most memorable learning during boot camp?
That's a tough one because there are so many. I think when seeing data flow from the front end, so a user has submitted a form, seeing that complete all its way through the different layers back to the database or to the back end, and understanding how that worked. I had one of the facilitators work with me to draw that out on a diagram so that I could see it visually in front of me, which really helped. And when that clicked, that really clicked and that felt great.
Yeah, awesome. Nice. What surprised you most about boot camp?
How much fun that we could have, even though it was so intense. Yeah, like you're working really hard for a lot of time during those weeks, but there's still meme wars and inside jokes within your group. So yeah, it makes it really fun as well.
Yeah, lovely. And knowing what you know now after completing the boot camp, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself?
I think just believing in myself. You get out as much as you put in, or even you get out twice as much as what you put in. And so giving it my all, I really took a lot out of that. So but believing in myself as much as I possibly could would be the best thing that I could have done or known at the beginning.
Yeah, cool. And do you have any advice, last advice for the folks on the call that might be thinking of doing or becoming a software developer or doing Dev Academy?
Yeah. I mean, it's a big change. For me, it was a big risk. I left a stable job to pursue this, but for me, I got out so much and it was so worth it. So yeah, if you want to change your life, then it's a good place.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. That's such yeah, such a beautiful story. I'm really glad you shared that. Does anyone have any specific questions for Amy?
Yeah, I wanted to know what was your final project that you did at Dev Academy? For those on the call who aren't Dev Academy pilled yet, the way that it works is like you do like lots of little projects all throughout the time, but then in the final week of the boot camp, you do like one big week-long project, which is kind of like the sort of like final boss of the course. What was yours?
Yeah, so we created an app called TripHive. So I was in a group with 3 others, and basically, you know, when you go on a trip with some friends and you want to coordinate schedules, and this is your hotel booking or your bus reference, and you can book all these events into this essentially a shared calendar app, and have all that information kind of ready to go. Everyone's on the same page, and it takes that responsibility off the one person organizing and trying to like herd cats basically. So yeah, we got past our minimum viable product, so it was a working app within the scope of what we had, and yeah, that was pretty cool. Like, it'd be great to actually use it sometime.
That's awesome. Mine was the idea. I had this idea because my I needed like dental work done at the time, and so I had this idea for basically like Kickstarter or like GoFundMe, but for your teeth. So you'd like post on it being like, my teeth are really messed up. I need like $5,000 to fix my teeth, and then people could like donate money and into like a pot of money, and then you get your teeth fixed. But the way that it played out, which I really could have foreseen ahead of time, is that scrolling down a website, which is basically just like a feed of just endless, really messed up teeth, is like a fundamentally like unsettling website to look at. So it worked. The project came together, but it was quite a unnerving final product when you kind of really saw it come together.
What was the website called?
It was called Tooth and Pail, like when you're like out, you know, like begging with a pail, but a pun on tooth and nail.
Gotcha. Like I
Yeah.
was just thinking an idea like that is begging for a good like pun name.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That was my first. I think I might have got the pun name first and then worked backwards from it.
Expected anything less.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Amy. It's really great to have your story there. If you'd like to go and have your dinner or leave the call, you're most welcome. Otherwise, you can stay if you'd like as well.
Yeah, I'll stay around. I didn't actually attend one of these, so this is interesting.
Okay. Lovely. Oh, great. Well, let's carry on, Fleur. Oh, so my kids have been called to dinner. I don't know if you can hear them in the background. I'm coming, Mum. So let me talk about the distinctions between full-time and part-time. So the full-time is the 17 weeks. You can do it in Auckland, Wellington, or Christchurch and online. But let me preface that with we are always melding and changing things. So during COVID, obviously everything went online. Coming out of COVID, we have varying degrees of hybrid situations. Okay, so in Wellington and Christchurch, we pretty much always have a mixed mode of delivery. And in Auckland, it really depends on the amount of students that we get as well. So just be prepared for that. And it might be something, if you're enrolling, just saying, hey, am I required to be on campus all the time? Is it mixed modal? Is it fully remote? What's the deal at the moment? Because that's always changing. And to be honest, we're really looking at the needs of our students to be able to accommodate what they need. And we have starts on the full-time program in January and March. Now, if you're interested in the January program, you've still got time, but we close enrollments in 2 weeks, okay? So just bear that in mind. If you're going to enroll in the next 2 weeks, I'd do it sooner rather than later so you can give yourself time to prepare and so on. Otherwise, we do have a March intake as well. The part-time program is longer, 46 weeks. You can do this pretty much any time in the day. So if you want to do it in the mornings only, afternoons only, or evenings only, you can accommodate it and work it around your work and your schedule. Again, we have designed the part-time program to be able to accommodate pretty much any sort of constellation. Okay, so and that's the idea, and we'll bend over backwards to make that work for you. So if you've got something specific, it's about talking to us, making sure it works for you, and us giving you the thumbs up and carrying on. Part-time is all done online, but we still have a lot of interaction. So you will meet your cohort, you'll get to know your cohort really well. They will become your whānau. You'll rely on them and work very, very close with them. The next part-time program starts in February of next year. And there's still places left on that as well. Now, it is the same curriculum for both cohorts, so both sort of schedules. You'll do the same sort of stuff and get to the same sort of level. It's the same support as well. So again, the teacher ratios, you're going to get, even though it's longer, you're still going to get a lot of teacher time there. And that's really important. Again, so for your learning to be able to progress at the rate that we want, we have a lot of teachers per student. And it's the same cost as well. So, yeah. Now, Joseph, do you want to, is this me or is this you, this part?
I don't
forgot.
know. I didn't look at the rundown, but I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay.
Let's
Well,
do it.
Yeah, go for it.
yeah,
You go
cool.
first and I'll just tag team.
Yeah, absolutely. So Foundations, which is the part of the course that I'm in charge of, that is, it's kind of like a less intense version of the boot camp. So and one of the other key differences is that you always do it remote. So like even if you were enrolled in a kind of a in-person or hybrid in-person course in Auckland, you're still going to be doing Foundations remote. And it is 40 hours a week as opposed to the kind of like 60 to 70 hours a week that we kind of see during the boot camp. And it's kind of more self-directed. It's not fully self-directed, like you still have access to facilitators anytime that you want it. It's still kind of like taught in a pretty active way over Discord, but sort of similar to the part-time course, you have the ability to shape it around your life in the way that you need to. So you could do it in the mornings, do it in the evenings, because there's less of a sort of an active schedule. And the name of the game in Foundations is really just getting exposure to as many topics as possible. So by the time you finish the 6 weeks of Foundations, you're still going to be terrible at everything. The goal of it is not to actually get good. It is just to kind of like interact with and see as much code as you can with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Git, GitHub, and kind of interacting with the command line as well. And then sort of leading to the final week of Foundations, where you actually start building some sort of larger projects using those languages. And then in the actual bootcamp itself, it's much more like a school. You're arriving for the full-time version anyway. You're arriving at 8:45 every morning, Monday to Friday. You're sort of finishing the day at like 5:15 p.m. kind of time, but then sort of you will have like some outstanding things, challenges and stuff that you were working on throughout the day that you might finish off in evening sometimes, or maybe in the weekends. So it's definitely a more full-on experience. And it follows more of a traditional sort of like the kind of rhythm that you might imagine in a school. Like you're arriving and then you might have a lecture in the morning, which might take kind of an hour or so, then work collaboratively with other people on some kind of challenge, then have lunch. The lunchtime at Dev Academy is like really nice and juicy. It's like an hour and a half or like 2 hours sometimes during the day, which is amazing. And then when you come back from lunch, it's similar kind of rhythm. You might have another lecture on a similar topic or kind of an adjacent topic to the thing that you did in the morning. and then go back into working a lot of the time with another person. So doing like pair programming collaboratively with another person, and working your way through another challenge based on the lecture of the evening. Of the afternoon, I should say. And that's kind of like the sort of rhythm that you can expect from the boot camp. So the first part, foundations, a little bit more you have a little bit more kind of agency to shape it around your life, more of those kind of introductory foundational kind of skills. And then the boot camp, more of a system in place, more of a I have to be here at this time kind of rhythm. And then you finish, and then you move into the careers section of the whole kind of experience, which I think maybe Rohan, do you want to cover talking about that?
Yeah, sure. So the careers side of it is really important. That's where, and it's part of the course. It's not optional. That's where we realize that becoming a software developer is if you do this program, you'll become a software developer. That's going to happen. But getting a job, that's another skill set. Totally. Like, the best software developers, if you can't job hunt, you're gonna struggle to get work. So we take a real deep dive into how to generate CVs, cover letters, LinkedIn profiles, get your GitHub going so it's all nicely polished and ready for someone to go, I want to hire this person. Then we go through how to create opportunities, how to network, how to do all this stuff to be able to go, where are the jobs and where are the people, all that sort of stuff. We really teach you a lot of secret sauce around that. And then we teach you a lot about interviewing, technical testing, and these sorts of things, so that you can put all of the skills of bootcamp and so on to actually the test when you get a job. And Dev Academy does not really, we measure ourselves on the ability for you to get work. So how good we're doing is how fast it's taking, how many people are getting work, and these sorts of things. So we really do invest a lot into that careers week.
And a big part of what you're building over that 9 weeks on the bootcamp is your portfolio that you have to show to employers to be able to demonstrate the programming that you've been doing. Because when it comes to getting a job in the tech industry, the thing that people really want to be able to see a lot of the time is like that you can demonstrate passion, that you can demonstrate that you're actually like working on really cool things, and that you have stuff to show off that you can talk excitedly about. You can be like, here's the stuff that I've been making, here's the cool technologies that I've been using. And all throughout that bootcamp experience, those the group projects that we do at the end of every week, and then especially that big group project at the end that I was talking about, that's kind of like the crown jewel in your portfolio that you can really be showing off to those employers that you kind of target in your careers week.
That's right.
Cool. And then the part-time course structure, very similar, but it happens slower. That's kind of the vibe for it. So foundations is it's the same. It's very similar actually. Like pretty much the only difference between part-time foundations and full-time foundations is an extra 5 weeks tacked onto it. And you're kind of spending about half as much time doing it. And then in the actual boot camp side of things, I would say, yeah, it's still like Rohan was talking about before. It's still the same curriculum, so you're still working on exactly the same challenges. You're watching the same lecture content, but it's delivered in slightly more of an asynchronous way, with times kind of punctuated throughout for you to have that one-on-one interaction with teachers to get help whenever you're stuck on things. And yeah, Rohan, do you have anything else that you would say about the kind of the differences for the part-time bootcamp experience?
No, that sounds good to me. Although if you add up 10, 28, and 2, you get 40. But just bear in mind there are 6 weeks of holidays there, so it accommodates school holidays.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, here we go. Well, let me talk about this. This is kind of like summarizing our curriculum in general and the kind of stuff we cover. I sort of accidentally talked about this stuff before, but I'll go over it a little bit more detail. So the stuff that we cover in general in foundations is these languages that you can see here on the screen. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are sort of the three languages that make up really the vast majority of everything that's happening on the internet. And Git and GitHub are sort of like cloud storage for code. And on the right-hand side here is a little example of one of the projects that you build in the 5th week of Foundation. So this is making tic-tac-toe, like noughts and crosses, which is actually really fun. And it's it's kind of less overwhelming than you'd think. Once you start working on it, you can kind of like smash it out in an afternoon or so. Yeah, it's really fun. It's a pretty flawed game because it's kind of solved. Like, if you know the correct moves to make in tic-tac-toe, you can either always win or draw, and you would never lose. So it's a little bit boring from a game point of view, but it's fun to program. And yeah, do you want to go to the next slide, Fleur? And then here, this is the kind of stuff that we cover in the first phase of the bootcamp. So in the in the full-time bootcamp anyway, the bootcamp is kind of split up into 3 phases, 3 sort of like 3-week-long phases. And in the first phase, we cover client-side technologies. So I won't go into the whole sort of nerdy explanation right now of like what's a server-side versus a client-side rendered application. But the main sort of bullet points that you need to know here are that we teach React on the client side. React is a library which was developed by Facebook, which is basically like a way of rendering websites to the page much faster than you can render them if you're like requesting the server every time. And then here, this is phase 2, which is kind of the second chunk of 3 weeks on the course. And this is when we start diving into the server side, dealing with like the kind of like the routes behind the scenes. So like when you're hitting a server, there'll be like an API that's maybe like talking to a database, getting information out of that database, then slooping you down a certain route to render you on the right place in a website and getting everything on the page in the way that it needs to be. And then we also do use like authentication, so like making sure that the right people are logged in the right places. This is my favorite part of the course, actually. It's like the back end kind of stuff. And then we can look at the next slide as well, Fleur. And then here, phase 3 is where you bring it all together. So in the last 3 weeks of the course, we take what we learned in the first 3 weeks, the kind of like front end, the React and the TypeScript side of things. And then the stuff we learned in the second phase, the kind of like databases, the APIs, the sort of like RESTful routes, all of that stuff. And we smash it all together and start making some bigger projects, multi-day projects, and then eventually finish it all up at the end, showing off everything that we made. That's kind of the way that it all comes together. And yeah, let's see what we have next. Oh yeah, so this is kind of walking through what a sort of an average day during the actual bootcamp itself looks like. So you start at 8:45 and you come in and do your kind of check-in. And then a lot of the time there'll be an opportunity for some mindfulness in the morning as well. And that's just kind of like a nice relief in a way to sort of like frame your brain and just sort of like sit in silence for a few minutes before you start the day and kind of like center your brain a little bit before you dive in. Then there'll be a lecture, either a technical lecture or a human skills deep dive. So that's kind of like you might pick a topic like giving and receiving feedback, and there might be an hour-long kind of like deep dive where you really talk about like what are the effective ways of giving and receiving feedback with other people. You might talk about some difficult feedback that you've had to give to people in the past and kind of how it made you feel, and just sort of generally diving in deep on one of those kind of human skills topics that we cover. Pair programming, you're pretty much always doing pair programming for the most part when you're on the bootcamp, and that is you and another person working on the code at the same time. And this it's pretty common in the industry to do this, whether you're doing it in person or remotely. There's tools where you're kind of like on a call and working on the same piece of code at the same time. And the really nice thing about pair programming is it helps you prevent that feeling of like you're stuck and it's broken and you're alone and you're cold and nothing will ever be okay again. Like when you're working collaboratively with another person, even if you are stuck and everything is broken, you're at least there with another person to kind of commiserate with while it's happening. And you end up learning a lot faster when you're pair programming because you'll catch mistakes that the other person did or that you make that you wouldn't otherwise. Maybe one of you sort of roughly knows 50% of how something works, and the other one sort of roughly knows the other 50%, and then with your powers combined, you can figure it out together. And you tend to make a lot more progress and learn a lot faster when you're pair programming. That's kind of the reason why we do it. And also it's common in the industry, so it's good to get practice doing it as well. And then we have lunch, which like I said, is really juicy. And then yoga / wellbeing time. So every Tuesday and Thursday, we have designated time for doing either like yoga, like online yoga classes, or just kind of like time for you to just sort of like relax and do things that make you feel good inside your brain and in your body. And then we have the afternoon lecture, which I discussed already, and then more pair programming and automated testing. So I haven't really talked about the testing side of things very much. Testing is one of those things that like a lot of the time in a lot of organizations, like they are all think of themselves as organizations that are really, really into testing, but a lot of the time in practice aren't actually that good at doing it very well. So they will be really excited about the idea of hiring people who are really into testing, because it's sort of like an emotional band-aid for something that a lot of developers are kind of secretly self-conscious about, is how much testing they're doing. So we have a big focus on testing as well, and teaching you how to do it and how to do it well. And then lots of group projects, which I already talked about. And then at the end of the day, around kind of like 5:15 sort of time, there's like a checkout where you all just kind of get together and talk about what you did over the day. Normally you kind of give a little rating, like it went really well, everything was amazing, or it went really badly, everything is on fire, or normally kind of somewhere in between there. And then study here, I assume that just kind of means like outside of the 8:45 to 5:15 kind of time period that we have. There is a lot of the time you'll have things that you didn't get to finish throughout the day that you can kind of like tinker away on in your own spare time. And obviously, like if you've got children, if you've got other things going on in your life, like nobody is going to tear your children out of your arms. Like you still have lots of opportunity to like live and do the things that you need to do to kind of like function as a person. But the way that you can kind of think about Dev Academy, especially if you're doing the full-time version of the course, is like, other than the things that absolutely need to happen, like taking care of your family, etc., Dev Academy will basically be the thing that you're doing all of the time when you're not doing that. It's sort of the way that it feels. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that I would talk about there. Maybe we could look at the next slide. Human skills. I don't really teach the human skills side of the course myself. But all of these kind of things that you can see here are basic topics that we kind of cover throughout the process of human skills. We have human skills facilitator, who's like a dedicated person who their role is to kind of like take you through our human skills curriculum, which we've developed over the course of more than 10 years now at Dev Academy. And a lot of the time, like one of the things that we say is that your CV or your portfolio is the thing that can get you a job interview, but this stuff, the human skills, is the thing that will actually get you the job. Because so much of the time, like you could be the most perfect technical fit for a job ever, but if you show up and the person who's interviewing you is like, I don't know, they seem like they might be kind of a dick, then you're not going to get the job. And so we put a big focus on a big focus on that as well. And yeah, let's see what is next. Human skills and practice. So there are accountability groups are something that we have at Dev Academy. So normally, I think it's every morning at the moment, still in the boot camp, Rohan, when people are meeting for their accountability groups. That's basically like a group of people that you get put with who act as kind of like your buddies throughout the little process of we have them in sort of like in Foundations as a version of it, and also in boot camp as well. And that's just kind of like a group of people where if you I guess to a certain extent they exist as like an anti-truancy mechanism where like when there's a group of people that are kind of like expecting you to show up every day in the morning and are just kind of gonna wonder where you are if you don't show up. I guess that's kind of like part of their function, I suppose. And then you kind of can catch up with them. Normally there'll be like a silly little question or something that you'll answer in the morning, like, would you prefer to fight, I don't know, like 100 little giraffes or one big one or something? And then you will catch up with your whole kind of cohort, your whole group of people for the opening and closing circles at the end of the day. And then I've already kind of talked about pair programming, group projects. Lightning talks are something we do throughout the course, which are basically like an opportunity for you to give just like a little presentation on some kind of topic. So there'll be like a big list of things that you can do a little bit of research on, like a cool programmer from history or like some little technology or something. And then you can get a little bit of practice giving like a tiny presentation in front of just the other people in your cohort. If like personal public speaking is something that you struggle with. It's very low stakes public speaking because it's just kind of like you in a Zoom call with a few other people that you already are talking to every day. So it's like the stakes are pretty low, but it's good practice anyway. And yeah, yoga and well-being time, mindfulness practice. I kind of talked about that stuff already. And then I'll pass back over to Rohan to talk about having a career.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Yes, having a career is important. So I talked to you a little bit about, going through the process of becoming a software developer. We're really confident in that. We know how to get you there. We can see that in your portfolio. But putting that to use and actually getting a job is really hard work, and you need to know how to do that. Just going out and applying for jobs on Seek and Trade Me is next to useless, and we don't even encourage it. Okay. What we do and train you to do is really understand our formula and how you're going to use that to your advantage. Basically, it involves, we go through it like this. Week one is a bit like we look at the tech market, what's working and what's not. Now, over the last couple of years, we've had a hard tech market. It's slowly getting better now, but it has been slow. And again, the rest of the world is out of recession, it seems, and New Zealand is still stuck in it a little bit. Okay, but it's still a hard market compared to what it was during COVID, but it's not as bad as it was in 2023. The formula we will go through, and the formula really is around standing out from the crowd, creating exclusive situations so that you can get work. We do a lot of career planning around planning how you're going to approach the market, planning around basically every interaction that you're having with a potential employer, you're managing that scenario. So we do a lot of management of the process so that your employer doesn't have to, or your potential employers don't have to. And again, this produces results. We create a really good professional online presence. We obviously go through CVs and cover letters, and we do a deep dive into interviewing skills and creating a portfolio. These are all things that are incredibly important. But to come back to the formula part of it, there is always thousands of people looking for work. But to be able to actually stand out from the crowd might seem like a daunting task, but we've made it very, very simple. And very simply, it's a case of creating activity. And it's nothing extraordinary. You don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to be someone that walks into a bar handing out your business cards. It's just not like that. It's just basic, simple, hard work. And again, we give you the tools to be able to do that, so it's not too intimidating. And we've had folks that have been not great public speakers. We've had folks that have been really not that confident talking about their skills, and everyone in between. And we've seen many, many people get work through this formula. So I've really got a lot of confidence in it. In week 2, we invite a lot of industry speakers to come in and share about sort of what it's like to work in their company. We invite graduates in to share what their experiences are like. Again, we're trying to give you a bit of a perspective of it's not as scary as you think. This is what works, and this is proven that what works. And hey, if you need support, there are people around to be able to support you. So that's the basics of career skills. It's a really important part to the program. So I'm just going to check the chat to see if there's any questions there. Oh, cool. So what I was going to say, requirements. So we don't have a need for you to have NCEA level 5 to do an NCEA level 6 program. Okay. So basically the prerequisite for coming on our program is, do you have the time and space in your life to dedicate the time to it? Amy talked about the intensity of the program and the fact that, you know, it's full on. Joseph's talked to you about the hours that you need to spend. 70 hours a week on the boot camp is pretty full on. Even if you're doing our part-time course, you've got to do at least 30 hours a week. That's a lot of work to be able to complete. So our main thing is, can you put everything on hold to dedicate yourself to our program? Do you have a passion for doing this? Other than that, we're not looking for much more, okay? Of course, you know, you have to be able to use a computer and so on, but we've seen people that have never coded before. In fact, most people that come to us have never coded before, and they've done incredibly well and made amazing software developers. So don't feel like you can't do this because you've never been exposed to it or you're not good at maths or science. That is not a good thing to think about. It's not a prerequisite for our program. The application process is fairly simple. You just jump on our website. You'll see that there's an apply button. Click on the apply button. You fill out a form. It's a really simple form. You don't need to put a huge amount of effort into it. Get it off to us. You'll end up having a chat to us about your particular situation. In that chat, you can ask us anything. We'll probably talk to you a little bit about, hey, what commitments have you got? Do you have whānau? Are you taking care of them? What can't you skip out on? What do you have to do in your week so that we can accommodate that into your studies? These sorts of things. You can talk to us about the difference between full-time and part-time and what one's for you. You can talk to us about your job prospects afterwards and those sorts of things. You can talk to us about things like, well, I have a disability. Is that going to affect me in my studies? Or I have a superpower, and how do you accommodate, you know, things like ADHD or dyslexia? You know, is that going to be something that's going to be a problem for my learning? And we'll talk to you about that. And the good news is that we actually really, really welcome any of those superpowers, from autism to Asperger's to ADHD to dyspraxia. We think they're all wonderful. And yeah, again, not a barrier at all for doing a program like this. The commitment I've talked about, it is a commitment, and that's really the thing that we are looking for. If you're planning on doing a holiday during boot camp, that won't work. Sorry, just won't work. We don't allow people to take a holiday during boot camp. During foundations, can you take a holiday? Can you go to a wedding? Can you do things? Probably, but you need to talk to us first so that we can prepare you for it, and afterwards so that you can catch up. These sorts of things are important. Can you take a weekend off during boot camp? Probably, but again, we'll prepare you for that so that you can accommodate it into your process, and sorry, into the experience. The success rate is very high, but bear in mind that we are looking for a lot of commitment and a lot of dedication and some hard work from you. Amy mentioned you get out what you put in, and that is true, but we do ask you to put a lot in, and everyone around you is going to be really pushing themselves, and that's awesome. It's exciting, but it also requires for you to do the same. Now, our fees, if you've got any problem with fees, our fees are covered by StudyLink. So if you can get a loan, that obviously will cover your fees. If any of you have not studied before and can access fees free, we are eligible for fees free as well. If you don't know what that means, again, talk to us. We have experts here that can navigate StudyLink for you and tell you if you're eligible or not. Sometimes StudyLink will give you a bit of a false negative saying, hey, you're not eligible for any funding, when you are. So again, if that happens to you and you've got a bit of a question mark over it, talk to us, because yeah, we're used to that. We've got a couple of people here that are really good at navigating StudyLink for you. Yeah, got the next slide there, Fleur. Okay, so the program costs $12,500 pretty much. I've already talked about the fees being covered by a student loan, and I've already talked about all of this. But we can help you with your fees. Now, I mentioned to you around the the length of time. So it's a very short period of time that we have you studying, but a really high teacher ratio. That's where your fees are going. It's on the amount of teachers and the amount of support that you get. And that's why it's quite expensive. Basically, we're cramming what we believe to be, a degree into a very short amount of time. Now, of course, the amount of content in a degree is much, much more than what we can teach you. We just don't have that time. But we've taken all of the most important things that apply and are relevant to getting work, and that's what we've put into the program. What's the next slide, please? Oh, well, we're ahead of time. This is becoming, yeah, we did this last time. It's becoming our norm. So questions, folks. What questions do people have for Joseph, myself, and potentially Amy?
Question from me. Just wondering if there's any software you're required to have in order to do the course.
Yeah, everything that if you're doing boot camp, we can provide you with all the software that you need. There's nothing outlandish that's expensive or anything like that. It's all sort of free sort of stuff. The hardware that we require for you to do foundations is just a laptop that's not too ancient, that's got probably 8 gig or more of RAM, ideally a solid state drive. It doesn't have to be, but please don't go out and buy a brand new computer, because becoming a software developer is really common for employers to buy you hardware on your first job, and that's kind of nice. And what they buy you will probably be better than what you get, because they've got lots of money to spend on you. But no, you don't need any Flash software or anything like that. We use things like Discord and Visual Studio and these sorts of things. It's all open source, so there won't be any cost involved in that. It's not too hard either. I had a question here relating to specifically to game development, and someone asking, if I did the program, would I be able to become a game developer? And the answer is, well, we've had a number of folks come through the program, including Joseph, who have gone on to become game developers. We don't actually teach you, game-specific technology, but a lot of what we teach you can be applied to that area. The same sort of learning, the same sort of environments, and a lot of those skills. As Amy mentioned, she's learning a totally new backend. And if you went into something like game development, you'd be learning new technology, but it would be closely related to what we would teach you. Likewise, if you're going into something like security or AI or maybe as a DBA, we don't teach those, or mobile development's another common one. We don't teach those things specifically, but we do see graduates going into these areas and doing really, really well because of the broad skill set that they've learned. And most of the time, I've talked to a number of employers, because we teach full stack JavaScript. Prior to that, we taught Ruby and .NET. So we've taught a number of different languages. And after sitting down with employers that have had a lot of Dev Academy graduates, they say, look, to be honest, within a month, they're up to speed to a level that surpasses what we would expect from people. So if you've spent the boot camp with us, and then you spend a month in your employer's environment, you're going to be fine. Okay, that first month is a lot of learning and it's pretty full on, but after that time, they're pretty pleased with where folks are up to.
Yeah, because like all modern programming languages are basically the same. Like once you've got your head around like variables, objects, arrays, loops, functions, flow control, like figuring out like the process of transitioning from one language to another. Like when I did the course, I learned JavaScript, and then to transition over into C# and get a job doing C# development, which is what I did when I graduated. The process is like the colons go in a different place here, or you use these kinds of brackets instead of these kinds of brackets or whatever. But yeah, the process of transitioning from one language to another, once you actually know how to program and how to learn languages, is pretty trivial stuff.
Cool.
Are
I have another
is there a typical structure to these kinds of jobs? Like, are they typically 9 to 5? Are they ones that always include weekend work? Are they like project oriented, maybe?
Yeah, so what you'll find is that the tech sector generally has pretty good work practices. So it's 9 to 5 sort of stuff, or at least do the hours between 7 and 10, but please don't do overtime. In fact, Xero will kick people out of the office at 5 and say, out you go and have a life. We don't want you working overtime. So and to be honest, I've upon occasion, you'll see a company saying, hey, we do overtime, but we pay you double or time and a half and you get time in lieu. And it's pretty good support. Remote work, though, has changed a lot since COVID. So we're seeing a lot of companies are remote first. Certainly, pretty much everyone's a hybrid situation. So, hey, come into the office when you like. We've got a meeting at this time. Be lovely to see you. We can, have a drink or have a morning tea or whatever. But a lot of the time you're working from home. Now, we all thought, during COVID, we all learned that we can work remotely, and actually as people do end up working and you can trust folks. But what we didn't realize, I suppose, was we need to put things in place online to make that work well. I think we've learned a lot from our mistakes, because people are creating online environments where that you can ask questions, you can be part of a culture, and you can grow those sorts of things. But that is a change I've seen a lot recently, is that, people are actually being onboarded remotely rather than coming into an office and being shown around and introduced to people. And that's quite hard to do. It's much easier to start off physically and then go remote. That's okay, because everyone, the nuances. But to start remotely that's a challenge. But weekend work, it's unusual. I think if you're supporting an imperative piece of software, there'll be some weekend work, but you'll be able to roster on and off or choose to do that or not. But I don't see a lot of it. Overseas work's interesting. So we're seeing a lot more people working in other time zones, working for companies earning a different currency. And we see that a fair bit. It used to be that you went to Australia or you went to the States to work, but now you just do it from here. You don't have to, you can go, but a lot of people will just want to stay here because it's cooler, literally. Someone before the call asked a question here about career transitioning, and they're a bit concerned about the skills that they've got. So they've come from construction and they're wondering, construction and project management. So they're just wondering, are they even going to be able to get a job after doing our program? So that's quite a specific question, but I'll answer it in two ways. So for their case and in general. But if you think about the work that you do and the fact that 80% of it is probably with people, and you're in teams, you're having to learn on the job, you're having to interact with a client or interact with another part of the business, you're having to follow instructions, you're getting into conflicts, you're having to resolve them, you're having disagreements. This is work in general. It's not specific to tech. Now, the specificities of tech will teach you around, the tool sets and the coding and so on, but everything else can be transferable. And if you've been in construction, well, you've worked in a team. You've had to follow safety measures. We have this very similar ones in tech, a protocol around how you do things so you don't cock it up. Same with a construction site. You've probably had to train on the job and probably had to manage others and work with others. That's the same as tech. You've probably had to give and receive feedback. You've probably had to manage conflict. You've probably had a client, and you've probably had a spec that you have to follow. So all of those things are transferable. What I've found is that people think that the tech sector is this, black box of weirdness. There is elements of that. But a lot of the skills that you have now will be really, really valuable. Okay. So I often say to folks, look, you're not getting graduate jobs. You're not a graduate when you're 26 or when you're 36. You're a graduate when you're 18 or 20. Okay. And that's when you're sort of really learning a commercial environment and so on. Beyond that, it's your second or third or fourth job, and you're you know, you might even be a senior, but you're new to tech. So those things will be utilized. And that's really important. Well, look, I've just had a quick read through the questions that we've had prior to the event starting, and I think I've answered them all through the kōrero so far. Are there any final questions?
Oh, hi there.
Go for it.
I'm currently living in Palmerston North. I was wondering how well the Wellington course, like what would be the best thing I could do to kind of accommodate the needs of the course? Like, should I look at getting a place in Wellington for 2 months? Or do you think it would be viable to commute from Palmerston using the train, multiple days of the week?
Yep, totally. So we had someone, not in this last cohort, but the cohort before from Palmy. Now they came in 2 days a week because their cohort said, hey, how about we work together 2 days a week on site? And this person just came in on that first train and went back. I think they went back a bit later. So they went back maybe on is there a 6:30 train that leaves Wellington or something like that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So they stayed for that length of time twice a week and had an amazing time. And on the alternate days, so it was Tuesdays, Thursdays from the office. On the alternate days, they were from home. And they said that was an awesome experience. It's really up to you, but what you'll find is in Wellington in particular, the cohort comes together and says, hey, we don't have to be here, but it's nice to see everyone. And it's nice to hang out. What days do you want to come in? And work out like that. That's how it rolls. Now, the January cohort in Wellington, we don't have a physical cohort. You can come in and use the office, but you'll be doing it online. So you're most welcome to come in. There won't be many people coming in. The one that starts in March, though, that's a bit different. There'll be people coming into the Wellington office and that sort of stuff. So it's up to you, really.
Oh, that's good. That is good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
I had another one if you've still got time.
Yeah, we definitely.
Awesome. I was asking a friend of mine who's a couple of years into her software development degree, just kind of about the course, what she thought about it. And she was, I think the two notes she had was she would like to see like Go and PHP on your like list of languages. I was wondering if those were included or a minor part, or if just not necessarily necessary for your curriculum.
Yeah, cool. So Go and PHP are both awesome languages. PHP is one of the most widely used languages in the world. It's behind a lot of your CMS sort of products as well. So things like Squarespace and Shopify and these sorts of things. And look, it's a wonderful language. It's got some great frameworks and it's got a cool community around it. Go as well is really awesome and got its uses. We don't teach them, and we don't teach them for a reason. And that's because we've got you for a short period of time, and we need to be able to teach you something that's going to be applicable to the most places possible. So we've actually sat down with a lot of employers and said, hey, we can teach anything. As I mentioned, we've already taught Ruby and .NET. We've taught full stack JavaScript with Node, React, and Redux. We're now teaching JavaScript and TypeScript. And again, we're being guided by industry. Now, does that mean that you're going to miss out on Go and PHP? Definitely not. You could do this as a pet project whilst doing Dev Academy, and we'd be able to support that, or you could even study it afterwards. Is it going to help you to get work knowing Go and PHP? Not at all. Okay. It won't affect your chances to get work at all. If you're going for a job at, let me think, let's say, I think it's called, Ardo Studios. They work a lot in Laravel and PHP. So Laravel is a PHP framework. And within a month, they would have tested you, they would have trained you up enough to be able to be very, very versatile in Laravel and PHP. Now, in a university setting, I imagine your friend is learning probably Java, maybe some JavaScript, maybe some C# and .NET. It depends if they're at Vic or at Palmy, at Massey. But again, those are wonderful languages. You'll be able to utilize and use them in a lot of different environments. But even if you know Java, JavaScript, .NET, you're still probably going to have to learn other things, even if they do the same sort of stack. So I wouldn't be too wedded to the language you're going to learn. I'd more be interested in how you're going to learn it so that you can learn any language.
Oh,
Very
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I wasn't necessarily concerned about not learning those languages. I was just thought it'd be a good thing to ask.
Cool. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, cool. Cool.
We're like as a institution, we're not loyal when it comes to the technologies that we teach. We just teach whatever is winning at the time, and then as soon as something else starts winning, we just cut it out of our lives and start teaching the thing that is winning at the time. Yeah.
Makes sense with how compact the course is. That does
Mm.
track. Mm.
Yeah. But also technology moves really quickly, right? And we're constantly bringing in new bits of tech and throwing out old bits. And yeah, we usually have a senior software developer that their job is to be going, cool, what's getting redundant? What's new on the horizons? And all of our teachers, get quite frothy about different things. In fact, Rust has been something that all the teachers are like, ooh, Rust, they're getting really, excited about it. Will we teach Rust? I don't know about that. We'll have to watch that space.
But it's so fast. It's so fast.
It might get really big soon. Who knows? And everyone will transform in their stack to use it. But that'd be a major overhaul of the New Zealand tech ecosystem.
Yeah. Can I just chime in there? Learning how to learn has been really one of the most valuable parts of the tech piece. I've been able to pick up Rust fairly quickly, I think, like a whole entire new code base in a month.
Oh, good on you.
So yeah, that it's really fun learning new things, and it doesn't stop at the end of Dev Academy.
Beyond learning kind of tools and language sets, to what degree do you find this kind of stuff to be creative? Like, if at all?
Well, I think code is incredibly creative. It's this. I regard code as this as almost this new medium. And I'm not a software developer myself, but I've seen so much creativity being used in this area that it just blows me away. If you think about it, it's one of those tools that's transforming our environment. And I'm kind of annoyed that more people haven't been offered it, if you know what I mean. Like it's often, the regarded as a geeky sort of boys subject, and it really shouldn't be. It should be everyone's subject. It's so versatile and it's incredibly creative, and I think it's just such a beautiful medium to work in. So look, I think it's really creative. Do we teach creativity? I think all of our teachers are incredibly passionate and creative people. A lot of them are artists themselves, including Joseph, our two Auckland teachers, and I'm just trying to think. Yeah, a lot of them have really strong creative tendencies. So, I think there's huge amounts of creativity in it, BD. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think the thing I would say about that is that coding is entirely a creative medium, but the satisfying thing about it is its creativity with right and wrong answers, which I love. Like that, like I make music and it's so frustrating how subjective it is. Like you'll make something and you'll listen to it and be like, is this shit? Is this cool? Like, I don't even know. But like when you're doing code, you have that same feeling of being creative while you're doing it, and then everything will break and a big red light will come up that says you did the creativity wrong. You did the creativity wrong right here at this specific place. And the like objectivity of that it is stirred into the creativity, I find, is like very it's very soothing compared to like other like working in like visual or sound based mediums for sure.
Cool. Well, it's been a wonderful discussion today. Thank you very much for your questions, and it's lovely to have you here. I'd just like to close as well with just an offering that if you have more questions, just get in touch. We have a book a call or an inquiry on the website. You can have a chat to me. You can have a chat to Joseph. You can have a chat to someone about your fees or how you might manage that. Basically, if you've got questions, don't feel afraid of asking them. This is a big commitment, and it's a little bit unusual. It's not like a degree program. You know what you're getting yourself into. There's a lot to know here. So definitely ask those questions, and yeah, really look forward to seeing some of you on the program. Thank you so much, team. We will call it a day. Thank you, Fleur, for managing the scenario. Thank you, Amy, for your wonderful stories and answers to the questions and yeah, sharing your story. And thanks to everyone that has attended.
I
Cheers,
will
Joseph.
just wanted to let everybody know that I'll send out the recording of this so you can go back and rewatch it as well, just in case you feel like you missed anything. Shelley, I know you jumped in a little later, so yeah, just so you can watch the full thing. I'll email that out to everybody tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Fleur. Thanks, everyone. Ka kite anō.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's forget where the end call button is on Zoom.